Welcome to this episode, where we delve into the harrowing yet ultimately triumphant story of Carly McBride. Carly McBride, a young mother of two, vanished under mysterious circumstances in 2014. Her case gripped her local community in New South Wales and drew attention nationwide. After years of relentless investigation and a family's unyielding quest for justice, her case found resolution with the convictions of Sale Newsome and James Caneen in 2021 and 2022. This episode explores Carly's life, the day she disappeared, the ensuing investigation, and the legal battles that ultimately brought her killers to justice. Carly McBride was born on April 14, 1983, to Steve McBride and Lorraine Williams. Growing up in a loving and supportive family, Carly's early years were marked by happiness and close family ties. She was known for her infectious smile and outgoing personality, always ready to lend a hand to friends and family. Despite a supportive upbringing, Carly faced significant challenges in her adult life. She struggled with substance abuse, an issue that complicated her relationships and daily life. Determined to overcome her addiction, Carly sought help through rehabilitation programs and support groups. Her battle with addiction was ongoing, but she remained hopeful and committed to her recovery. By 2014, Carly was living in Belmont, New South Wales, with her two children, William, then 7 years old, and Cadence, age 3. Her children were her world, and despite her struggles, Carly worked hard to provide them with a loving and stable environment. She maintained a connection with Cadence's father, Andrew Easton, although their relationship was strained. The events leading up to Carly McBride's visit to Muswellbrook on September 30th, 2014, seemed ordinary, though they would later take on a somber significance. Carly, a 31-year-old mother of two, was in the midst of managing her life in Belmont, New South Wales, juggling the responsibilities of motherhood and her ongoing efforts to overcome substance abuse. Her visit to Muswellbrook was primarily to see her daughter, Cadence, who was living with her father, Andrew Easton. On the morning of September 30th, Carly was in good spirits, looking forward to spending time with Cadence. The visit to Muswellbrook, located about 70 kilometers away from her home in Belmont, was part of Carly's regular routine. Despite the challenges in her life, Carly was deeply committed to her children and maintained a cordial relationship with Andrew for Cadence's sake. Carly's day started early. She had breakfast with her son, William, who was 7 at the time, and then prepared for the trip. Sale Newsome, Carly's boyfriend, was supportive of her plans and had agreed to drive her to Muswellbrook. Sale and Carly had been dating for some time, and although their relationship had its ups and downs, Sale was someone Carly relied on. They left Belmont around mid-morning, with Carly expressing excitement about the day ahead. The drive to Muswellbrook was uneventful, filled with casual conversation and Carly's anticipations about her visit. Carly had always been transparent about her struggles and her attempts to stay clean, and Sale knew how much these visits meant to her. Upon arriving in Muswellbrook, Carly and Sale went straight to Andrew Easton's house. It was around 12:30 p.m. when they pulled up to the residence. Carly was eager to see Cadence, whom she hadn't seen in several weeks. Sale waited in the car as Carly walked up to the house. Andrew Easton opened the door, and Carly greeted him cordially. Despite their past relationship issues, they had established a functional co-parenting arrangement for the sake of their daughter. Cadence, delighted to see her mother, ran up to Carly, and the two shared a warm embrace. The initial part of the visit went smoothly. Carly spent quality time with Cadence, playing games and catching up. They sat together in the living room, with Carly listening attentively as Cadence talked about her recent activities and school experiences. The bond between mother and daughter was evident, and Carly's face lit up with joy during these moments. However, as the visit progressed, tensions began to surface. Carly and Andrew had a history of disagreements, primarily related to their differing parenting styles and Carly's past struggles. That day, a disagreement arose regarding Cadence's schooling and future arrangements. The conversation grew heated, with both Carly and Andrew raising their voices. Cadence, sensing the tension, retreated to her room. According to Andrew Easton's account, the argument escalated to a point where Carly decided to leave. Frustrated and upset, Carly told Andrew she needed some fresh air and walked out of the house. Andrew claimed that Carly said she was heading to the nearby McDonald's to clear her mind. Andrew watched as Carly left the house, noting that it was around 2 p.m. She was seen walking down the street, visibly distressed. Andrew stated that he assumed she would return once she had calmed down, but as time passed, Carly did not come back. Sale Newsom, who had been waiting in the car outside, became concerned when Carly did not return within the expected time. He began searching the nearby area, including the McDonald's, but there was no sign of her. Growing increasingly worried, Sale returned to Andrew's house to inquire if Carly had come back, only to learn that she had not. Panic began to set in as Sale and Andrew both realized that Carly was missing. Sale immediately contacted the police to report her disappearance. The police arrived swiftly, and an initial search of the area was conducted, but Carly was nowhere to be found. Andrew's account of Carly's last moments was critical to the police's initial investigation. He maintained that she had left voluntarily after their argument and was heading to the McDonald's. However, surveillance footage from the vicinity did not show any sign of Carly, neither at the McDonald's nor on the surrounding streets. As hours turned into days, the lack of any concrete leads or sightings of Carly deepened the mystery. Her family and friends were distraught, unable to fathom how Carly could simply vanish. The last sighting of Carly, walking away from Andrew's house on that fateful afternoon, marked the beginning of a tragic and prolonged search for answers. The account provided by Andrew Easton became a focal point for investigators. They scrutinized his version of events, looking for inconsistencies or potential leads. Meanwhile, Carly's family held on to hope, appealing to the public for any information that could help bring Carly back home. The disappearance of Carly McBride on September 30th, 2014, set off a chain of events that would span years, involving extensive police investigations, community searches, and ultimately, the pursuit of justice for Carly and her loved ones. Carly McBride's sudden disappearance on September 30th, 2014, triggered immediate concern and swift action from both her boyfriend, Sale Newsom, and the local police. The early hours following Carly's disappearance were crucial, as investigators worked tirelessly to piece together her last known movements and gather any evidence that could shed light on her whereabouts. Upon realizing that Carly had not returned to Andrew Easton's house, Sale Newsom's concern quickly escalated into panic. He contacted the police to report her missing, stressing that Carly's absence was highly unusual and out of character. Sale described her as being upset after an argument with Andrew, but insisted she wouldn't have simply vanished without contacting someone. The police response was immediate. Officers arrived at Andrew Easton's house to gather preliminary information and understand the circumstances of Carly's disappearance. They conducted a brief search of the nearby area, including the McDonald's where Carly was supposedly heading, but found no trace of her. Authorities quickly set up a command post to coordinate the search efforts. Additional officers were dispatched to canvass the neighborhood, and the surrounding areas were thoroughly searched. The initial focus was on locating Carly within Muswellbrook, hoping she had perhaps wandered off and would be found safe. The investigation expanded as police began interviewing neighbors and potential witnesses who might have seen Carly on the day she disappeared. Officers went door to door, asking residents if they had seen Carly walking in the area or noticed any unusual activity. Flyers with Carly's photo and description were distributed throughout the community in the hopes that someone might recognize her and provide a lead. Despite extensive efforts, these initial interviews yielded little useful information. Most neighbors either had not been home during the critical hours or had not noticed anything out of the ordinary. The lack of eyewitness accounts was frustrating for investigators and heart-wrenching for Carly's family, who were desperate for any news. A critical component of the investigation was the review of surveillance footage from businesses and public places in the vicinity of Andrew Easton's house. Investigators hoped that cameras might have captured Carly's movements after she left the house, providing a clue to her direction or state of mind. Police collected and scrutinized hours of footage from cameras located at intersections, gas stations, and the McDonald's Carly was supposed to be heading to. Unfortunately, the initial review of this footage did not reveal any sightings of Carly. There were no images of her walking the streets, entering the McDonald's, or being picked up by a vehicle. This lack of visual evidence further deepened the mystery surrounding her disappearance. With no substantial leads from witnesses or surveillance footage, the investigation faced significant challenges. The immediate actions taken by Sale Newsome and the police had established a foundation, but the case needed more evidence to move forward. As days turned into weeks with no sign of Carly McBride, the investigation shifted its focus towards examining the accounts provided by those closest to her, especially Andrew Easton and Sale Newsome. Their statements were critical in understanding Carly's final moments and uncovering any discrepancies that could point to foul play. Andrew Easton's account was scrutinized closely. He had stated that Carly left his house following an argument and was heading to the nearby McDonald's. Investigators noted that Andrew seemed cooperative, providing details about their disagreement and Carly's departure. However, the lack of surveillance footage corroborating his story raised suspicions. Police re-interviewed Andrew multiple times to identify any inconsistencies or gaps in his narrative. Similarly, Sale Newsome's actions and statements were examined in detail. Sale had been the one to report Carly missing and had actively participated in the search efforts. Despite his apparent concern, investigators needed to ensure there were no underlying motives or undisclosed details that could explain Carly's disappearance. Sale's relationship with Carly, including their dynamics and any potential conflicts, was explored to rule out any involvement. A puzzling development in the investigation was the mysterious deletion of Carly's Facebook account shortly after she went missing. Carly was an active user of social media, often posting updates and staying connected with friends and family. The deletion of her account raised alarms among investigators, as it suggested that someone might be trying to erase digital traces of her presence. The timing of the account deletion was particularly suspicious, occurring within days of her disappearance. Investigators sought to determine who had access to Carly's login information and whether this action was taken by Carly herself, under duress, or by someone else entirely. This line of inquiry involved digital forensic experts who attempted to retrieve deleted data and trace any login attempts that could provide further leads. As local efforts to find Carly stalled, the case garnered broader attention, prompting involvement from higher authorities. The U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, became involved due to the potential for interstate or international elements related to her disappearance, particularly given the mysterious circumstances and the deletion of her social media account. The DOJ's involvement added resources and expertise to the investigation. They assisted in analyzing digital evidence, coordinating with local authorities, and expanding the search parameters. Their participation underscored the seriousness of the case and the need for a comprehensive approach to solving Carly's disappearance. Additionally, a public plea for help was issued by Carly's family and law enforcement. Press conferences were held, during which Carly's parents made emotional appeals for information. They urged anyone with knowledge of Carly's whereabouts or any suspicious activities around the time of her disappearance to come forward. These pleas were widely broadcast, and media coverage helped to keep Carly's case in the public eye. Despite these efforts, the investigation faced a daunting lack of concrete evidence. The examination of accounts from Andrew Easton and Sale Newsome, the mysterious deletion of Carly's Facebook account, and the involvement of federal authorities highlighted the complexities and challenges in the search for Carly McBride. The investigation continued, driven by the hope of finding answers and achieving justice for Carly and her family. The search for Carly McBride reached a devastating turning point in August 2016, when her remains were discovered near the town of Scone, New South Wales. This breakthrough came nearly 2 years after Carly's mysterious disappearance during a routine property inspection by a local resident. The skeletal remains were found in a remote area, partially hidden by dense bushland. The discovery was both a relief and a heartbreak for Carly's family, who had been holding out hope that she might be found alive. The site was immediately secured by police, and a thorough forensic examination was initiated to confirm the identity of the remains and gather any potential evidence that could point to the circumstances of Carly's death. Following the discovery, the police made a public announcement confirming that the remains were indeed those of Carly McBride. This grim confirmation brought a sense of closure to the question of her fate, but opened a new chapter in the investigation, focused on bringing her killers to justice. Police statements emphasized the ongoing nature of the investigation and the renewed efforts to piece together Carly's final moments. The site where Carly's remains were found was meticulously combed for evidence. Forensic experts collected soil samples, analyzed the condition of the remains, and searched for any physical evidence such as clothing, personal items, or tools that might have been used in the crime. This discovery revitalized the investigation, providing fresh leads and a focal point for detectives. The new evidence gathered at the scene and the forensic analysis of Carly's remains offered crucial insights into how she might have died and who could be responsible. Carly's parents, Lorraine Williams and Steve McBride, were devastated by the confirmation of their daughter's death. In a public statement, they expressed their profound grief and called for justice for Carly. They thanked the community for their support and urged anyone with information about Carly's disappearance and death to come forward. Lorraine and Steve's plea for justice was a poignant reminder of the human cost of this tragedy. Their unwavering determination to see justice served galvanized public support and kept the pressure on law enforcement to solve the case. Their emotional appeals were widely covered by the media, ensuring that Carly's story remained in the public eye. With the discovery of Carly's remains, the investigation shifted focus once again, zeroing in on Sale Newsome, Carly's boyfriend at the time of her disappearance. Newsome's behavior had been under scrutiny since the early days of the investigation, and the new evidence intensified suspicions. Investigators revisited Newsome's alibi and re-examined his statements for inconsistencies. His actions following Carly's disappearance, including his involvement in the search efforts and his public expressions of concern, were re-evaluated in light of the new evidence. The forensic analysis of Carly's remains provided new angles for questioning, and detectives worked to build a stronger case against him. Sale Newsome's background and his relationship with Carly were also thoroughly investigated. Newsome had a history of minor criminal offenses and a reputation for being controlling and possessive. The dynamics of his relationship with Carly were characterized by frequent arguments and a volatile mix of affection and conflict. Interviews with Carly's friends and family painted a picture of a troubled relationship. Carly had confided in some friends about her concerns regarding Newsome's temper and controlling behavior. These testimonies, combined with the new forensic evidence, added weight to the suspicion that Newsome could be involved in Carly's death. Before the discovery of Carly's remains, the investigation had already seen significant developments. In 2015, a series of arrests were made in connection to the case, including the apprehension of James Canine, an associate of Sale Newsome. Canine was suspected of having played a role in the disposal of Carly's body. Canine's involvement added another layer of complexity to the case. His background, including any previous criminal activities and his relationship with Newsome, was scrutinized. Canine's arrest provided investigators with additional avenues to explore, including potential motives and the dynamics between the two men. The prosecution's strategy centered on a combination of circumstantial evidence and forensic findings. They argued that Newsome's controlling behavior, coupled with the forensic evidence, pointed to his involvement in Carly's death. Key witnesses included forensic experts, Carly's friends and family, and individuals who had interactions with Newsome and Carly around the time of her disappearance. The circumstantial evidence presented by the prosecution painted a compelling picture of Newsome's guilt. This included his inconsistent statements to the police, his behavior following Carly's disappearance, and the forensic evidence linking him to the crime scene. The forensic findings were particularly damning, as they provided concrete proof that Carly had been killed and her body disposed of in a manner consistent with Newsome's known habits and capabilities. Forensic experts testified about the condition of Carly's remains and the likely cause of death. They discussed the physical evidence found at the scene and how it connected to Newsome. This testimony was crucial in establishing the timeline of Carly's death and the manner in which her body was disposed of. After a lengthy trial, the jury found Sale Newsome guilty of the murder of Carly McBride in December 2021. The conviction was a significant victory for Carly's family and the investigative team that had worked tirelessly to bring her killer to justice. The sentencing phase followed, where the judge considered the severity of the crime and Newsome's lack of remorse. Newsome was sentenced to a lengthy prison term, ensuring he would spend many years behind bars. The sentencing brought a measure of closure to Carly's family, though the pain of their loss would never fully heal. In their statements to the media, Carly's parents expressed their relief that justice had been served and thanked everyone who had supported them throughout the ordeal. The conviction of Sale Newsome marked the end of a long and arduous journey for Carly's family and the investigators. It was a testament to their perseverance and the importance of seeking justice for victims of violent crime. The case of Carly McBride underscored the critical role of thorough investigative work, community support, and the relentless pursuit of truth in achieving justice. James Caneen played a critical role in the aftermath of Carly McBride's tragic death. As an associate of Sale Newsome, Caneen was deeply involved in the disposal of Carly's body. Investigators uncovered evidence that Caneen had assisted Newsome in transporting Carly's remains to the remote area near Scone, where they were ultimately discovered. This involvement was crucial in piecing together the events following Carly's disappearance and providing a fuller picture of the crime. Caneen was arrested in 2015, initially on charges related to his suspected involvement in Carly's case. His arrest came as part of a broader effort to break the case open and gather more information on the roles various individuals played in the crime. During his trial, which began in early 2022, the prosecution presented a detailed account of Caneen's actions, supported by forensic evidence and witness testimonies. In July 2022, Caneen was convicted for his part in the disposal of Carly's body, bringing another chapter of this tragic case to a close. After the conclusion of Caneen's trial, Carly's parents, Lorraine Williams and Steve McBride, spoke publicly about their feelings. They described their ongoing heartache and the enduring impact of Carly's loss on their lives. Their statements were poignant reminders of the personal toll such tragedies take on families and communities. The case of Carly McBride highlighted the importance of persistence in the pursuit of justice. It underscored the critical role of community support, thorough investigative work, and the legal system in bringing closure to victims' families. The convictions of Sale Newsome and James Caneen were testaments to the tireless efforts of law enforcement and the unwavering resolve of Carly's loved ones. In summary, Carly McBride's disappearance and the subsequent investigation into her death were marked by significant challenges and breakthroughs. The convictions of Sale Newsome and James Caneen were pivotal moments in the long journey to justice for Carly. Carly's story is a tragic reminder of the devastating impact of violent crime. However, it also serves as an inspiring example of the power of perseverance and the importance of seeking justice. Carly's family and the investigative team demonstrated remarkable resilience in their quest to uncover the truth and hold those responsible accountable. As we reflect on Carly McBride's case, it's essential to remain vigilant and support efforts to find and protect missing persons. Community awareness and cooperation are vital in preventing such tragedies and ensuring that justice is served. Let Carly's story inspire us to take action and make a difference in the lives of those affected by similar circumstances.